Hello, welcome to U.S. News and World Report. I'm Simon Owens.
I'm Tierney Sneed.
And today we're talking about an annual celebration called Repeal Day. Now, it just happens to be the 79th anniversary of what?
The repeal of Prohibition, of course, which was the time between 1920 and 1933, where you cannot manufacture, transport, or sell alcohol in the United States of America, with plenty of exceptions, of course.
Even though 79 years has passed, there are actually a lot of things in our daily lives that are actually were born out of the era of Prohibition. One of them that you talked about is the rise of heterosocial drinking. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Before Prohibition, most public drinking centered around saloons, and most of those saloons were male only, so you didn't really see men and women drinking together publicly. Of course, historians point out that in lower classes and immigration populations you did see that, but among the middle and upper class, women did not drink publicly with men. But with Prohibition, you see the rise of speakeasies and dinner parties and other new places to be drinking, that women were now drinking with men, and a lot of different things came up because of that.
Like dating, for instance.
Exactly,
right?
Dating. You know, before the argument goes, it was all about courtship and these more formal venues for men and women to meet and romance. But now with the speakeasy, you had flirting and dating, and one famous example is, of course, Irving Berlin and Ellen McKay. He, of course, was the Russian-born Jewish self-made songwriter. She, the Irish Catholic daughter Harris of a rich family. They would have never been allowed to date and court each other and before Prohibition, but met at a speakeasy and ended up getting married and causing quite a stir.
Well, speaking of songwriters, there's a famous kind of music that came in conjunction with the Prohibition era. What is that?
Well, jazz became really popular in this time. Before, it started in New Orleans. It was more of a African-American form of music. And it was during Prohibition that you see the rise of jazz clubs in New York and other cities, and it became really popular with white audiences. And often, you couldn't see anywhere you went and saw live jazz. There were some cocktails being served. One historian told me you'd see them being served in coffee cups in case it was busted. But jazz became really popular in this period, kind of hand in hand with the rise of speakeasies and other places where you could see live music.
Now, believe it or not, there were actually people who did follow Prohibition and didn't drink and wanted to find things to do that didn't involve going to a speakeasy, and one of them was, this is where you saw the rise of the cinema.
Yeah, so the cinema, the trajectory of the cinema during this period is very interesting. The industry was very pro-Prohibition. They definitely pushed for the law to happen because they knew that the cinema would then become an alternative for entertainment now that you couldn't drink. And it did. It became a very popular form of entertainment. You saw more, again, middle and upper class people going to the cinema. But interestingly enough, around 1927, 1928, that you see kind of Hollywood kind of turns on Prohibition, and something like 66% of the movies made in the late 20s and early 30s featured speakeasies or dinner parties or some other form of illegal drinking. They say that they are just depicting, everyday life Americans, but really it was becoming this glamorous new culture that Hollywood did capture and became some of the greatest movies that we know from the era.
Okay, well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for joining us at U.S. News and World Report. For more, join us on the web at usnews.com, and happy Repeal Day.